Oh, there are some big oil producers among the Gulf Arab states who are holding their annual summit in Qatar. And top of the agenda is the low oil price and the threat from Islamic State militants. Talk about the Gulf Cooperation Council. I'm joined by Dr. Sara BAZOOBANDI, who's from the think tank Chatham House, an expert on Middle East economies. What is the relationship between the Gulf Cooperation Council and OPEC countries?
And 4 members of OPEC that are major oil producers, including Saudi Arabia, which is one of the strongest probably voices within OPEC, the largest producer of OPEC, 9 million barrel production of oil per day, only Saudi Arabia produces, which makes 1/3 of the total production, daily production of OPEC. So in that sense, the GCC members are, at least the 4 of them, the 4 members of the OPEC are quite important members and have a strong level of influence, in fact.
Yeah, sure. And so, has that been is that the main topic of discussion there at the moment, the oil price and its effect on the region?
Of course, oil prices is an important issue for all the GCC members, specifically these 4 OPEC members. These are economies that are heavily relying on oil income. They are not very diversified. They have heavy subsidization schemes for their energy, food items, etc. Most of the government expenditures comes also from the oil revenue. So it means that if the oil prices are going down, the governments are going to be able to expend less in their economies, and in all 4 cases of these countries, the governments are the most important players of the economy.
It looks like there's been a loss of separation and self-interest happening within OPEC. Is the Gulf Cooperation Council more tightly together, do you suspect, in its joint interests?
I think it wasn't just an accident that few days before the last OPEC meeting there was a emergency, if you like, gathering within the GCC members to put some of the differences aside, because prior to that there was some dispute amongst the members, specifically Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Emirates were not quite happy with Qatari government policies in Egypt and in other parts of the region. That led to withdrawal of their ambassadors from Doha.
Sure.
But only a few days before OPEC meetings, the ambassadors were sent back. A friendly gesture was made, and some of these disputes seem to have been resolved. And it could have been, a motive could have been perhaps having a more united voice in OPEC.
And obviously terrorism high on the agenda as well, and IS and so on, and Qatar's not been unlinked with that in the past, has it? And there's been that sort of discussion. Are they being open about those kind of links and whether any of the countries are still funding those sort of organisations?
Of course, going back to one of your previous questions, oil is only one of the topics on the agenda. It's another issue is the rise of extremism, the rise of influence of Iran, the issue of Yemen. All these are factors of discussion. Whether the GCC is likely to have a more unified voice in terms of who are they going to support regionally, I find it difficult to accept that that's going to be the case, because I know that there is a lot of overlapping interests within the GCC itself. But the threat imposed by extremism, the threat imposed by the rising influence of Iran, and the potential crisis that might reach even to the GCC states is a good factor perhaps to bring all members of the GCC together.
Sara BAZOOBANDI, thank you very much indeed for joining us.